I want to bring in our buddy Seth Keshel. Seth, good to see you. I was excited to read. I'm always like when your column, Captain K's Corner, pops up in my Substack, I get excited because as I tell everyone, I love the data. To me, like, you know, if Trump's not going to win, you'll say, hey, this is why he's not going to win. If he's going to win, here's the thing. But it doesn't lie, right? The data tells you here's how many votes someone got in the past. Here's where the registration numbers are, blah, 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 blah. What did just overall, because I want to get into the states, what did you think about the results and where you just like, again, broadly speaking, where you thought the race ended up?
I was irate over the Seltzer poll of Iowa. And
Of course.
as you know, we've talked about that. Newt Gingrich talked about it as well. And I issued a column before Election Day about the Seltzer poll. And voter registration trend, of course, was my guiding light. And what happened was, and I laid all these results out last night in Iowa, 99 counties, all 99 had a Republican Party registration shift, and 97 of them are further right this year than they were last time. And the two that aren't are still counting and are likely to end up further right than they were in 2020. So it was probably going to be 99 out of 99. That's been there in the data, and it's provable going back decades, as far back as you'll find the numbers. So I put out this column. It's like Iowa's definitely Trump plus 10. Well, Iowa wound up Trump plus 13. So all through election night, I was like, hey, here's this poll. Wrong. Voter registration analysis for the win. And then when I saw Duval County trending Trump won Duval County in Florida, I was like, this is going to be Georgia for Trump. And sure enough, there's Georgia for Trump and to the right of Duval County, like it always lands. So party registration for the win. That also took Pennsylvania, and then
let's get into it because I want to. You name checked Georgia, so let's get into this. The final call. You did it on the show. You said the pessimistic model, in the worst case scenario, Harris wins by 0.4, but you said based on the Duval County model and everything, Trump ends up just north of 5. You're not that far off here. I mean, he ended up 2 and change, right? So he gets the win. That's not bad right off the bat.
Yeah, my average miss in the 7 decisive states was 1.3%. And
I mean, you got it right though, right? I mean, but there's factors that happen on election day in terms of who actually shows up. That's not a bad place to be though.
Oh, 100%. Now, Georgia wound up at 2.2. I think I called it somewhere in the middle between registration because I thought
you did.
Bullish. I called it a 4.1.
Right. Okay. And it ends up at 2 point. But then, all right, let's move to your state of Arizona, right? Here's your final prediction. Pessimistic model, 1.4. Registration model, Trump, 5.8. I got Trump right now at just about 6. You're basically right on the bullseye.
I'm right on the bullseye with the registration model. And the thing about registration model is when somebody that normally votes for one side crosses over to the other, it accelerates this. So what has been noticeable to me in highly urbanized states with large Latino populations, we've got a really strong move to the right. I did not see Texas going 14 points for Trump. I thought that this year would be the year Florida went right of Texas, but Florida's at 13, Texas is at 14. California, now I don't know how the late counting is going to go and who that's going to favor, but California is at 17 points right now, which is 12 points to the right of 2020. New Mexico was off to the right. So I think that Arizona may be, depending on how these late ballots come in, Arizona may be about to go vintage, old school, 8 to 10 point style Arizona. And if that happens, it's going to be a boon for Kari Lake.
All right, Nevada. So you don't think Kari Lake is done? Yes?
No, I think the math favors Kari Lake. I don't know that Maricopa County in their ballot counting process favors her, but the math looks good for Kari, especially if Trump rolls over.
Right, so we don't count her out. Nevada, you had the pessimistic model, Harris 1.1. The registration model in Nevada, you had at Trump 3.6. It came in at 3. You're right there. You're back on the bullseye again.
Pretty solid. Once again, a largely urbanized state with a big Latino population. That shift is absolutely enormous for our future.
Well, okay, so then let's stick with the end states. Moving down the alphabet, you're in North Carolina. You said that right now that you the net shift in that direction from 20 to 24 was 3.9% for the Republicans. You end up with Trump winning that state 3.5.
Trump is up there in the mid threes, and I think my registration analysis had him at over 6 possibly.
Yeah, 6.3.
And my pessimistic forecast was 1.4. So that wound up almost right in the middle of my pessimistic and my.
No, but this is. I'll quote you to you. It says these averages out to 3.9, splitting the difference. That's where you thought we were. He's at 3.5. I mean, it's just like you're right there.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean it's just the thing that's so funny is that no one's going to be 100. You can't. It'd be impossible because you have to know exactly. People have car accidents, sicknesses, kids that are late or whatever. But that's to have right now. Let's get into Pennsylvania for a second. The final call, you said the pessimistic model was Trump 1 +1, and then the registration model was Trump 4.6. These two models average out to Trump at 2.8, which is just shy of the county by county registration model. He's at just about 2, just plus or minus 2 right now. You're right there again.
Yeah, not a bad call. And then, of course, here's the one that's really going to get you, Sean. How have I pegged Michigan? People have always asked me, what do you do for Michigan? There's no party registration. It's a political cousin of Pennsylvania, and it has been since World War II, basically. And Michigan was 33,000 votes left of Pennsylvania in 2016. And it was 73,000 left of Pennsylvania in 2020 for an average of 53,000 left. So that was my model. I had it left of Pennsylvania. And Michigan right now is 55,000 left of Pennsylvania as the results are.
You mentioned the Latino shift, the Hispanic shift. I brought this up earlier on the show. Trump did the best with Hispanics that any Republican, 46%. But I mentioned this earlier. I'll put the chart up. But Florida, 58. He got 58% of the Hispanic vote. 58% in Michigan. 55% in Texas. 50% in North Carolina. 49% in Ohio to her 47. 48 in Nevada. 43 to 57 in Wisconsin. But even in Arizona, 42-55. For a guy that everyone in the media said was horrible for Hispanics and wanted to lock everyone up and throw them out of the country. Not too bad, huh?
No, not bad at all. And people don't know how to talk to the Hispanic voters. They look at the failures of the Republican establishment all those years to get Hispanic votes. And really, they want border security, they want educational opportunities, and they want a good economy. And they big time look at the Texas Rio Grande Valley counties, all back Donald Trump. You've got Starr County that went for Donald Trump, hasn't backed a Republican since 1892. Webb County for Donald Trump. Hidalgo, Cameron counties for Trump, and 41% in El Paso.
Is there anything when you looked at the data from any of these states, the popular vote, anything that you, as a guy that's so data driven, were shocked by?
New Jersey, 5 points. Illinois, 8.5 points. I had all these states. Those were some of the ones that I missed on, that I thought that New Jersey would be bigger than 8 points for Harris. I thought that Illinois would probably go 10 or more for Harris. So the urban vote is really good. Now, it's depressed in most areas. This is why I'm focusing in on Milwaukee County right now, which we don't have to cover that at the second. But there's a big blueprint now from 2020. All the questions about 2020, a lot of them have been answered here in 2024. And I think they really give election folks something to focus on for cleaning things up. In Arizona right now, there's going to be a massive mandate to clean up the way elections are reported, even if it's done in accordance with the law. You imagine right now if the Electoral College was hung and we were waiting for Arizona to report its results, what kind of state this country would be in right now?
It's funny you bring that up. I always say it. We end up like, we talked a little bit on this morning meeting show that I do every day about the Electoral College. And because no one ever cares about faithless electors, if it had been 270 to 268, people would have been losing their minds over faithless electors, something that happens all the time, but no one cares because it doesn't matter. And that's what I think is when you have landslides, no one pays attention to the small problems.
Correct. And you also had the possible scenario if Trump would have won Nebraska's second congressional district and wound up with 269 to Harris's 269. There was a scenario for that. It would have been Trump with Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada with none of the blue wall. That would be heading for a contingent election in the U.S. House. You'd be in for 2.5 months of 2 months of the biggest hell that we've ever seen in America. And fortunately,
and by the way, can you imagine you're going to get a speaker election because the House is tight? I mean, this would have been a nightmare.
100%. Now, we avoided that because Trump was well on his way to winning this thing on election night. In Pennsylvania, he ran strong in Philadelphia County. That's the reason why we weren't down to the wire in Pennsylvania, is because Trump trended Philly County about 6 points further to the right than it was in 2020, which was further right than it was in 2016. So Trump's progress in Philly County proper has been instrumental in carrying Pennsylvania.
On a personal level, you had a lot of people who have decried your method, said whatever, and yet you have a pretty darn good record that I just read off of. I mean, and it's not like it's data driven. And so, how vindicated do you feel on a personal level?
Well, it feels good. It's a lot of people help teach me this kind of stuff. I've got the God-given talent that I've always had in between the years, but yeah, I've taken a lot of heat for this. And 2020, you know good and well that I don't feel good about what happened in 2020. And a lot of these registration indicators were blown in 2020, where some of them went right, which is like, why was Florida accurately predicted by the registration shift, but Pennsylvania was not? Why were the other states in North Carolina? Why was it not? So to me, it's, unless it's blown up by something completely external, like a manufactured crisis over a pandemic, or media narratives, or covering up the Hunter Biden laptop story, that party registration indicator is the most successfully predictive forecasting tool that you have. And it's right there in open source data. So as a military intelligence officer, one of my favorite disciplines to review was open source intelligence, because people are always looking for that crafty James Bond stuff where they can really put classified information out there. But in fact, the enemy takes 70% of what they learn about us from open sources, soldiers' Facebook accounts, stuff that gets printed on the front page of the newspaper about troop movements. So likewise, most of what you need to forecast the drift of elections is available with open source data, and also by studying the way the campaigns behave. You want to know why Harris wasn't competitive in Iowa? Is because she never showed up there, and neither campaign ever put resources in Iowa.
Right.
Texas. Yeah. How did you know Texas should have gone to the right? Harris didn't have the same lingo about Texas going to turn blue. Minorities are going to turn Texas blue. In fact, minorities happen to be what saved Texas. And Texas, moving at 14 points Republican, has now put that out to sea like Florida, probably for the rest of our lifetime.
Good. Seth Keshel, always, I mean, I'm so excited. You made our jobs easier. You gave our viewers great information to make decisions, to know where to come. And we hit it on the nail. Donald Trump will end up with 312 electoral votes. And we based a lot of that off people like you. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming here. Keep it coming. Really appreciate it. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.